When I first found the music, it wasn't just about the song or the band. It was about the journey, who you were with, and how you felt. This is a series about some great musicians, generations later, still taking us on that ride.
Yeah, boys. We're going on 20 years, Bill.
Wow.
The arts, are able to communicate, the truth of our lives.
When we met, it was imperative to be married.
But now you scared the hell out of me.
All of us would be more than happy to have a Godzillion seller hit, but that's not what drives us to play the music.
You got the same subject matter. You talk about life, you talk about hard times, you talk about love affairs.
We spend more time together than any other couple I know, except for Larry and Teresa. We're Velcro,
When the two of them come together, that's when the sparks fly.
That was an absolutely extraordinary time in music. It just didn't last.
I was obsessed with it.
I'm at the table with Rick Derringer, in my opinion, the greatest rock and roll band of all time, Johnny Winter and
I lost most every friend I had. I'm just a good man feeling bad.
Look what I'm doing. I'm playing this tune with the guy who wrote it. I was completely in that moment, just thinking, cool.
It takes you to that place. You're with whoever you were with.
And sometimes I think that's the whole quest of the whole baby boomer generation, to find the thing that isn't bullshit.
It was raw, and it was like no one thought about it. And you saw it.
You ever heard that one?
All this was cotton around here now, and all these houses you see were not here when I was growing up. I walked to school through the cotton patch. Then there was a brief period where there wasn't anybody in, and Daddy would play music down here with all the local guys, I was really little, and the kids would be running wild. That was really fun. They would play. He had a reel-to-reel tape recorder, which was unusual for anybody to have around here at that time. So back in this room is where my parents, in their first year of marriage, lived with my dad's parents, and they slept in the same room with my grandparents for the first year they were married. I wouldn't want to have to do that, but they survived it. They're still married 60-something years later. And wow. So I'm not saying that people who don't come from this can't be real or can't be authentic or can't be passionate and make great music, but I am saying that a lot of the people that we respond to, like the Stones, they were studying the music of the people who came from this. We're like an hour from the Mississippi line. For me, it comes from this. The reason I made you come down here and get inside all of this and things that you may not feel are appropriate for your subject matter, but things that you may not feel are in line with your subject matter. What I'm trying to say is inside of this are the people who are really close to the dirt.
Welcome once again to the Radical Imagination. I'm your host, Jim Vrettos, and I'm a sociologist and criminologist who's taught at John Day College of Criminal Justice and Yeshiva University here in New York City. This show is being taped on January 13th, a week after the violent insurrection and mob takeover of the Capitol that killed 5 people on January 6th. And a week before Joe Biden's inauguration on January 20th. Authorities are warning of more right-wing violence around the inauguration, with possible armed far-right protests planned at all 50 state capitals as well as the U.S. Capitol. Hearings to impeach Donald Trump are being held today as we speak. America seems to be imploding before our eyes. Our guest today on The Radical Imagination offers some of the hope and love we need as we all take a breath and move back from the edge. Acclaimed Americana musicians Larry Campbell and Teresa Williams are the focal point of a beautifully made 10-part film series called It Was the Music, created by the critically acclaimed award-winning documentarian Mark Moskowitz. It chronicles their lives, their creative partnership, their American musical odyssey, and a deeply, deeply personal love story as they take to the road in search of what they call music utopia. It Was the Music follows Larry and Teresa over 15 months on the road from recording studios, clubs, music festivals, intimate venues, and theaters across the country. From Teresa's seventh-generation farm in Peckerwood Point, Tennessee, where she is right now, to Larry's native New York City and the couple's home in Woodstock, New York, culminating in its grand finale with selections from the star-studded The Last Waltz 40th anniversary celebration in New York City's Lincoln Center, Damrush Park. The couple creates and performs music in private, candid moments, riveting interpretations of America's beloved gospel, blues, country, and classic rock and roll, on back porches and backyards, farm fields and kitchens, remote cabins, dressing rooms, and in church, joined by many of their famous friends, fans, and collaborators who speak to the ongoing power of American music. Larry is hailed for his defining work with such artists as Levon Helm, the iconic drummer and voice of the band, Bob Dylan, the Black Crowes, and many, many more. Teresa is known for her highly acclaimed roles as Sarah Carter in Keep on the Sunny Side, and the title role in Always, Patsy Cline, and as a stellar vocalist for Emmylou Harris, Jackson Browne, and many, many others. The film is first and foremost a love story, as Larry and Teresa profoundly and poignantly remind us how love can create the music and how the music can bring us together. The music is also about us, how people respond to art and music, musicians and artists as the unacknowledged legislators of the world, and what it means to be human. Not quite a documentary, not quite reality, not quite a memoir, not even a story. It Was the Music is reverential, memory-like, it's elusive, things touch other things, much like a song, much like America, and much of what Americans need to understand and feel now. Welcome, Larry, Mark, Teresa. Thank you so very, very much for being on The Radical Imagination.
Thanks.
This is
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. It's such a profound moment in our history. And your film is such a profound film that I think speaks to what is going on today so very powerfully. I would like to get into that. And perhaps the best thing to do is to start with you, Mark. You created this beautiful work. And how did the project get started?
Colleen and I went to see Larry and Teresa at a show. I didn't know who they were, but it was a $12 ticket, and it was close to my mom's, and it was near the good barbecue place we go. We walked in, and we were floored and moved. And as I say, the whole series actually opens up with me talking about this. It took us back to certain places in our lives that were just incredible memories, and Colleen had tears in her eyes, whether it was her dad listening to Johnny Cash and country artists out of the service and played them all through her growing up, or the music I heard, which was contemporaneous with Larry and Teresa, especially Larry growing up, the records and all that kind of stuff from the 60s and early 70s. But what they were doing was pulling all that forward to now, and it wasn't just like a rehash. They somehow made it work here and today. And I had been working on a film about music for some time off and on, and it sort of crystallized when I saw them, and I just asked them, would they do it with me? And so they said yes. I don't know why, but they did.
Yeah, so your connection to the music of what period are we talking about? 60s?
Well, I was born in 54, so I was, I was 15 in 69, I was 17 in the great album year of 1971. I mean, when I was in 8th grade, people were walking around with, Paul Revere and the Raiders and Cream and Hendrix albums. So that was my life back then.
Right. And Larry and Teresa, so how did you come to join together with your music and in your lives and become part of this incredible project?
How did we initially come together, Teresa and I? Is that what?
Yeah, just as human beings, and so how did you meet? Was it?
Teresa was doing a show. Yeah, Teresa was doing a show in New York. In 1986, wasn't it, Teresa? 86.
You remember, Teresa? Right, Teresa? 1986?
I'm testing him.
Yeah, thanks.
Whoa. All right.
And
so 34 years ago. Wait, that's 34 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
And a mutual friend of ours was helping her put a band together for this, and I got the call, and during that time period, it was sort of the height of the tail end of the urban cowboy New York City country music fashion thing, and there were all these country singers in New York, or wannabe country singers in New York, and I was a little skeptical when my friend first called me about, how he was describing Teresa, just another singer, that's what I was thinking, I got to the rehearsal. She was the real thing. She knocked me out. After I could take my eyes off her, I could start listening to what she was doing, and it was just captivating, and that was the beginning right there.
Is he passing the test, Teresa?
Yeah, I always kind of wish he would say he heard me before he saw me, which in my case was true. I heard him playing, and I was doing some Hank Williams in that set, and I just thought it was going to be a disaster, because I thought that a New York musician playing real country music, the whole thing was an oxymoron. So he really was inside it, and as I was in the little rehearsal that afternoon, I heard that pedal steel, and I keep the quip is it was love at first note, and that's actually true. And then when I talked to him just briefly as he was leaving the rehearsal, it was definitely love at first sight. Definitely, I could just see who he is today in that moment, and it sounds really corny, but I could see. No. The depth of his soul in that moment, truly, I could. And he is who I saw in that moment. He really is. He didn't disappoint me. And then that night at the gig, he's leaning against the wall, the building of the Bottom Line, and smoking a cigarette.
Leaker.
Sadly, he was smoking a cigarette, but, there was an element of cool in that moment, and I was like, oh, he cleans up nice. So, because he just rolled out of bed for the rehearsal, and then that night he had on his stage clothes, his cowboy-esque stage clothes, and that was it. For like the next year, I would ask my friends, "What about that Larry Campbell?" Until we finally did get together.
So you were both performing in New York, or you were traveling around and just happened that he saw your concert in New York? Is that how it happened?
No, I needed a band for this thing I was doing at the Bottom Line, and I didn't know any country players in New York City, although I'd been there, I'd been there about 5 years, but I'd been traveling some during that time, and I hadn't done country music in New York. I grew up on it, but it just hadn't come up in the city. And I just had this one thing and needed a band. And Michael Simmons, who You tell them who Michael is. He found the band for me, and Larry happened to be in the band, and Larry's reputation preceded him because Michael Simmons, they were in the same circle of people, and Michael knew Larry's, his level. he was creme de la creme musician. Larry was, even at that time. Yeah, for sure.
Sure.
Tell him who Michael Simmons was, Larry.
Yeah, who's Michael Simmons, Larry?
Michael was an editor for High Times magazine and National Lampoon, and also a great country singer himself at the time. Yeah.
His family owned one of those magazines, and now he writes for Huffington Post and various things. He's in the film, right?
Yeah. Michael tells that story in the film. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm giving it away. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
We have a wide and diverse audience from all kinds of different generations here. So I'm the older guy here. So I grew up in the folk music period. I think I mentioned before the show here. Went to a few years after Judy Collins in Denver, East High, Denver, and actually her piano teacher, Walter Rath, for the first year, was also my piano teacher. So, as I said before, I frequented the Green Spider coffee house in Denver at the time, and then went to New York. I'm a New York kid, but my family moved out to Colorado. But anyway, long and short of it is the power of music and politics and living and getting to know people and falling in love was so incredible. And as I said, we did a show last week with Abby Hoffman's biographer, and reliving those times brought back what you're also talking about, the power of music, the power of reaching people and filling an incredible void in our political life, in our communities, and our own personal life. And I think sort of music you're trying to, you have been, playing, and the film itself exemplifies just what we need again today. You agree? I mean, we're looking for that.
There's a point in the series where we do a lot about what music means to us, and one of the things that, as you can see, just Teresa and Larry telling that story about how they met, we felt that on the stage. I mean, and so the film's more than just music. It's about long-term relationships and marriage, and how we've coped through the years with that. But there's a point in the series where we get to Emmylou Harris and a bit about Graham Nash and a bit about Larry Taylor, who played with Canned Heat at Woodstock, about the generation that's sort of slightly older than me, that where exactly what you said was going on. The music was the culture, was the politics. It was all tied up, and it's hard for people to imagine now who didn't live through that. How powerful that was, especially to somebody my age as a teenager. And I think that's what I wanted to get people feeling that again, somehow.
You did, and I got that part where I think Larry, you were listening to the Beatles, right? And Ed Sullivan, and it just blew you away, right? So how old were you then?
I was 9 years old. It was February 9th. I was 8. I was about to become 9. It was February 9th, 1964. And I say all the time, that was literally the Big Bang. That was it. And from which the rest of the universe, my universe of musical experience grew out of that, but that's kind of typical of kids my age that are into music, that have made music their life now. That was a catalytic moment for most of us.
That's so important. And what you're saying, Mark, it's so profoundly important. It really brought us together. And that was partly what I was trying to talk about in the introduction there. We are so divided, so polarized. And music is one of the ways to bring us together and to heal as a country. And the disparity in cultures and income and race and so on transformed when we listen to the music, and that's what you so beautifully do in this incredible film. Teresa, how did you feel from West Tennessee? Did you connect to the New Yorkers?
It took me about 10 years to be comfortable in New York City, and I really miss it now. I really miss it. I just love the vibration there. People, everybody, as I said in the film, just striving to achieve their best being. I love that. And when I met, the day I met Larry was a result of my brother had been killed in a car accident that February, and I met Larry in October. And somewhere in the middle there, I just realized I called off a wedding that wasn't right for me in June, July, and I just, when I kind of came up from being underwater with all that, I realized how short life is. And I always had in the back of my mind, I grew up singing, I kind of took it for granted, but there was something in me that did want to sing as myself, and because I went to school for theater. I love the whole storytelling and words and acting, and it's all the storytelling, and music is nothing if not telling a story. I mean, I'm into the lyrics, Larry's into the melody, you know. Right. So I something in me when my brother died, he was 26, and it's just like, hey, something in me said, life is short, get on it. And that is a result of me kind of getting more serious about it. It's how I met Larry, and yeah. Oh. I don't think I answered your question, Jim. I'm sorry.
No, you did, because one of the most poignant, so many poignant moments in film. One that struck me was how you each related to your upbringings and the hurts and the traumas that you went through, and remembering your own families. And you referred to it, Teresa, you know, speaking, and you choke up for a while there. You're relating to people that grew up in the dirt, in a sense, of people of the dirt, of feeling the dirt, knowing the earth. And Larry then started talking about his growing up in wherever you grew up in New York. Where were you in New York? In the city? Right?
Manhattan.
Manhattan.
Yeah.
The parallel was right there. You were both relating to each other's individually your upbringing, and yet there was a definite connection. So whether it was in Tennessee or New York, so that's what I'm trying to get across here. That's what this film does over and over again. Yeah.
I just, it was kind of inevitable in a way that, you know, for us to get together in Manhattan and be so simpatico musically and emotionally, and you know, we see a lot of things the same way. It seems like impossible that we would find each other, but it is sort of inevitable that we would find each other, because we were both going towards the same light musically. I guess that was a smaller circle than you realized in the city.
Yeah. You really, one of the things I wanted to talk about, because I have been close to a couple of musicians, very close in my life, and one was a world-class violinist, Eugene Fodor, and I know he experienced an incredible joy, a profound joy when he was on stage. That light that I think you're talking about, and yet the business of music was incredibly ruthless, and had a lot to do with some of the issues that he had then personally, it impacted him. So I wonder, as you've navigated the music business and the world in over the decades, have you seen that? Have you experienced some of that yourselves as you tried to meet the musical utopia?
The music business side of things.
Well, yeah, the side
Can
of
I
it,
ask?
the drugs, the pressure, the celebrity. Yeah.
Can I weigh in on this?
Absolutely.
This one reason that I hop, skipped, and jumped to music, I think, was because I could see, we're 2 hours from Nashville here, and I know there was another girl from my hometown who was a singer, wanted to be a singer. She went to Nashville, and I just was, I don't know, I just could get the drift of that. I didn't talk to anybody about it. I just was getting the drift somehow that the industry was really brutal. So I just knew I didn't have the personality to cope with that, seriously. But I needed the music, and I needed to do the music. And I have to say this too. The little blurb in Amazon is that announces the series, and it says they get in their car and pack up their 30 or whatever year marriage and get on the road to go on the road to make it. I can't stand that. I can't stand that. I just want them to change it. They go on the road to play music, to make music. That's all I want. I think if you could just keep that in the forefront, some knocks and bruises with the business, but if your mind is focused on the right thing, you go around that. You address that, Larry. Nobody likes dealing with business. I don't think many people who are artists like dealing with business.
No, it's true. But, in the case of Eugene Fodor, he's on such a high level of musicianship, and it's so competitive at that level. That legit classical music industry has its own version of cutthroatness, from what I understand, and I certainly empathize with that. It's not as prevalent in the circles that Teresa and I travel in, although it's there. Once you're dealing with business,
I've experienced it firsthand. I've been backstage when people have told me, when I've been requested to be on a song with maybe a really famous musician, world famous musician, and I've had girls backstage tell me, "You just don't sing. You're not going to be on this." I mean, I've had some cutthroat stuff, like really cutthroat, just like silliness,
Yeah. I'm gonna name a name. I'm gonna name names because I'm very close to Fodor. Isaac Stern. If you didn't do what he wanted you to do, he controlled that business at that top echelon. That was it. He could make or break your career, and you would play in third, tier orchestras, and that was the power that one person had. And I appreciate the candor here, because what you all are doing, Fodor tried to do too, is beyond that. And it is the love of the music. It is that moment where you're on stage and you're connecting to people, and you're reaching people at the deepest possible level.
And that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. All the Teresa says, has said a few times, when you're up there on that stage, everything else that's annoying or difficult or unfair that you have to go through to get you there, all that stuff melts away, because there you are doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And if you can just follow that stream, that's where the payoff is for all that other stuff you have to go through.
It's the only point. It's the only point of any of it.
Absolutely, yeah. It is. It's.
That's why the phrase they go out to make it on their own. I just can't stand that. It's like they go to play music. They go to make music. Okay, that's all that it's really about.
Let's talk a little more about that. You in one of the clips, you talk about concept albums or progressive FM radio. We don't have that anymore, do we? Mark, what?
No.
No. What's happened? What have we lost?
Oh, there's a lot of loss in this series, I don't know, but when you go to a Larry and Teresa concert, and it's not just their concerts, although their audiences are great, but a lot of that kind of roots music of people sort of bringing this forward. They're trying to keep it going and invigorate it, and it's original. So Hot Tuna, and Larry writes his own songs, and Yorm and Jack and Hot Tuna, or Roseanne and John, who are in the film, Roseanne Cash and her husband John Leventhal, and you look at the audiences, and there's two things about those audiences, and I recognize some of this in the giant concert things, the guys who go to the Who or Bruce Springsteen or those big things as well. There's people there because it's taking them back to some moment. It's some moment in their past that they're reliving. Like when you hear a song on the radio and you were on a date, or something, and it just all comes back, right? So there's some of that where they're coming back to that. And then there's people there who are there literally just to be in the moment with it, okay? And they're in the moment, and that was for me. I was going to a lot of small venue music concerts. I went through a bad divorce, and I sort of took me a while to get out of the house again, and I bought all these tickets, and sometimes I went by myself, but I'd go to concert after concert, and I wasn't there to sort of relive anything. I was there to be in the moment with the music and the musicians and to connect. And when I saw Larry and Teresa, I really connected. But that moment of connection, that's what the arts are. I mean, that's what's passed on. I mean, that's when the art happens, is not when is when it goes from the artist to the audience, and the audience, it means something and they take it somewhere else, And
absolutely.
I think a lot of that is, I think these small venues that, just to go on a little longer, we made this and put it out as 10 parts because people are missing that. You can't go to a concert now, right, of any size. So we decided to put this out now to sort of, if you missed that in music, this is there for you now. But, besides that, it's the internet, people listening at home on headphones or things, their phones, everything fragmented, brought up. I'm not sure that shared experience is that's something a lot of us are missing. And you really miss it now, right? When you're trapped in your house like this, right? You really miss it, right? But I felt I was missing it, well before this. So,
What if you know the name Daphne Hellman's Angels? She was a harpist that played up in the Village Vanguard. And up to in her, I think it was the early 80s, she would haul out her harp and take it down to the subway by Bloomingdale's and play it. And that was what it was about. I also, I mentioned to you before, Yara Allen of the Poor People's Campaign. Reverend William Barber talks and has her on most of these events. The musicologist, it's so important to first connect and get inside the souls of people before they begin to understand the larger meaning for what they're experiencing. The Grateful Dead making their way into Columbia. They bypassed security, right? Did a concert at Columbia when we were taking over the buildings. So these are the moments. This is what music can do and connect with. Go on that. Shlomo Carlebach, maybe as New Yorkers, you might know that name, but also connecting with Orthodox Jews at this deep level. Again, speaking in the words of people of the earth again, as you referred to that, Teresa. So it's everywhere, and they're spoken all over the place that try to connect. And I think what you're saying is so important. We need to do so much more of that now.
Yeah.
I mean, the question is,
Amen.
you know, how much do you guys miss playing and making that connection on your end? I miss it on my end, but you know, what?
Yeah, what are you doing? Yeah, how are you? Yeah.
You know, this week, you know, my father has Alzheimer's, and we had a really rough week with him. Some other ailments, some other illnesses crept in, and just, you know, he was really, we had 3 days where he just was sleeping all day. So he's back, he's coming back. We've taken care of some of that, and he's doing better. So I got out the guitar, and everything's usually so rushed, and I just knew he would love it. And I got out, my mother and him in the living room, and it was just such a moment of joy, and it's going to make me cry. It felt like when I was growing up, and his foot's tapping after him just really being non-responsive almost. I hadn't been just sitting around playing for fun with them. I can't tell you what a deep moment of joy it was just to replay some of those Johnny Cash songs with him, Everly Brothers, a little Jimmy Rogers, that stuff. I tried to do stuff that he was very familiar with, that he played all the time when we were kids. I'm just reiterating the point of the movie, I guess.
No, these moments are so precious. Fodor happened to play, went to my mother's, when my mother was in the nursing home, 95. He played for her, and she lit up, and it was one of the most
Absolutely.
And that's what it's about. And,
Yes.
and what you all are trying to do, and you got to.
That's it. That's it. To see somebody light up, and for us to light up, and that's it. And when that spark meets, I just felt like that's what Mark was telling us when he first introduced the idea. To me, what I took away, maybe you hear what you want to hear, was he was trying to suss out what that spark is when those two lights meet. And hey, that's a worthwhile something to tease.
Right. Going back to your question about the music business, if you're looking for something journalistic about the music business, this is not your cup of tea. But we do focus on, I think, without really talking about it, it is about the feelings and connections that this stuff brings about, whether it's picking up an old album or hearing a concert or singing or creating a song in the moment. You know, there's a scene where Larry plays a new song he wrote for Teresa, because, you know, when he writes the songs and then they work on them together to bring them to us. And,
right.
You know, we were lucky to capture that a couple times in it. And that moment, I remember filming it, of watching Larry do the demoing the song for her, and she is then his audience at that point, you know, and there's a long marriage and a love connection there, and the song and the way that worked, it was, you know, I hope it comes across in the film, but in person being there, it was a very, you know, it was worth the whole process. You know, it was worth the whole process just to have been shared that with them.
I remember that. You know, you guys are making love. You're making love to each other. Correct?
It's a very intimate experience. Yeah.
It's
very intimate.
Yeah. I've often said, if you got really good harmony going with somebody else, it feels almost like cheating.
That's good. But look, you have your egos too, and your creative juices and so on. I mean, you work together, you play together, and so on. You compose together. I mean, there's got to be some friction there too. How do you overcome that? How do you work through that? Those difficult spots.
I think some of those spots are in the film.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, right.
I was intimating that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, Teresa's a professional. I'm a professional. so everything eventually falls into that vortex, you know. So
it's probably better that we didn't marry until we were, you know,
right.
After 30. So we kind of
right.
were who we were going to be.
Yeah, where we had the experiences we needed to have to be able to balance our personal life and our professional life, and that creative process is an intimate thing. It's a very intimate thing, and it's also you can't. I mean, you can call it ego that makes you want to hold on to your point of view, but it's also your belief in your creative output, you know, and you want it to, you know, when we collaborate, we're sort of coming together and pulling apart to try to make this piece of art the best it can be, and
the most truthful.
Right, most honest as it can be, and that's going to cause friction because I believe it should be this way sometimes, she believes it should be that way this time, both for the same valid reasons, and then we do eventually come to you know, I keep myself wide open to her point of view, and I believe she keeps herself open to my point of view, and if after the heat and the whatever discussions it causes after all that, we usually end up with a better piece of work, you know.
No, absolutely. That's beautiful. Well, she gives you a look. There's a clip there. There's a part of the clip where she gives you a long look there. And then I think they come like, well, it's time for dinner now or something. We gotta go eat. But you know, then you came back and everything was okay. But no, it's just sweet. I mean, it's so beautiful to see. I mean, on so many different levels, this creation, Mark, is so beautiful, and you all fit in with so many different people, and it's just such an invigorating. Just what we need at this point. This is what America needs, to see each other and to love each other more, to come to know each other more. I mean, yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? So
it is ultimately about. Go ahead, Teresa.
Some of the thing about getting along and working together, living together, creating, you know, some of it's creative and some of it's just work, the slog of getting where you're going and the business end of things. But the creative thing, which is, you know, hopefully more of the time, you just have to surround yourself and work with and marry somebody you respect. And that kind of goes for any walk of life, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And trust.
Yeah. And trust, is that what you said?
Kind of goes for the government too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Surround yourself with people you respect.
Absolutely. Great point. What are you working on now? What are you creating now?
Who's that? We're all creating all the time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Right. What comes after? What comes after this, Mark? For you?
For me?
What are you working
on? I made a film some years ago called Stone Reader, which is about what books mean to us, and this is sort of about what music means to us. So the next one's called Art Stops Here. I started shooting it way back in 2001, and I dropped it, and I couldn't find a way to make it work. But in the last couple years, I've figured it out. So it's about it's called Art Stops Here. It's about the things we hold dear. And to a lot of people, it might be, you know, antique tractors or their grandfather's pocket watch. But to other people, it's their memories or, you know, there's things about journals in it and things about, there's a guy in it who actually collects other people's lists. And there's people who don't keep their things, but they make a list of their things and they give their things away and they keep their list. And so it's all these It's similar in that it's referential and it's sort of an oddball thing, but it's you know, it's about what stuff means to us. And as I get older, and I got to downsize out of this house here, I wonder, you know, what is all this stuff and how did I get it and what am I going to do with it?
I'm with you on this, Mark.
That's another very small personal film, but, you know.
No.
You know.
It's a much larger film. What do you retain? What can you let go of? What it means to you? What you collect everything, right?
Right. And how hard it is to let go. And we talk to collectors all around the country. And there's a great guy named Harry Rinker in it who collected so much stuff he had to buy an actual schoolhouse that was sold by the township, like a gigantic elementary school. And he's got it all filled with his stuff. Jigsaw puzzles in this room and, you know, old vacuum cleaners in that room, you know. And he's hysterical and he talks about if you don't get rid of stuff, he actually wrote a book about it. By the time you're 55, you've got it all, you figured it out because you got the stuff from your childhood you always wanted if you made money. If you don't get rid of it by the time you're 65, you're going to be stuck with it and your kids don't want it.
That's right. That's exactly, I've heard that so much. Your kids are never going to want this stuff. As Chris Rock said the other day on the morning, CBS Sunday Morning, he said you spend your life accumulating stuff, and then like 50 and after, you spend your life like going, how can I get rid of all this stuff?
That's right.
What can I live without?
In just a minute or two, and there's so many more things I'd love to talk with you about, but the minute or two we have left, you've collected your stuff in music. What would you like to retain? What would you like to have this generation hear? And what would you like them to take away from it?
Go ahead, I'll defer to one of you.
Oh, well, personally, I this coming generation shows a lot of hope and promise to me musically. And if Teresa and I can hand down anything, it hopefully is the notion that if you pursue what is calling you creatively, if you walk down that road where somebody's calling you and do it with intent and with honesty and with the love of this calling, you're going to be successful, even if it doesn't make you rich, if it doesn't make you famous. If you do it for the love of that art and the love of that expression and the love of connecting with people and making them feel something, and they in turn making you feel something back, that's a total success. And I hope...
Amen. That's it. Well said, Larry.
Yeah. I hope any one of these younger generations that happen to see our film or Mark's film, and I hope they can take that message away because it's in there.
Absolutely. You want any last words, Teresa? You want to follow up on that, or?
I just totally concur. I couldn't say it better. And you'll meet the love of your life that way too.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right.
Stay true to who you are and what you love, and you're going to be fine.
That's right.
Well, Shlomo Carlebach, in a sense, brought my love of my life to me, and we are married, and we knew about his music long time ago. So you're right. Music is the love of life. And listen, we could go on and on. I wish we could spend more time together on this.
Yeah.
You are terrific. This is an incredible film. It's the music. Please, all of you on the Radical Imagination, get out, watch this. Thank you so very, very much for being on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Excellent. So nice to meet you. Nice
Jim.
to meet you.
We'll come back. We'll see you again. All right? All the best.
Thank you, Jim. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care. And thank you so very, very much for watching us here on the Radical Imagination. We'll see you next week. Take care. Or Joe Biden's inauguration. Okay? All right. See you then. Take care.
At the end of every one of those.
Yeah, yeah. So Justin, can you put a tambourine on that?
And that's the solo?
Right, and that should be a stop right there after the...
Okay.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Oh, you can...
It's on the Yeah. There it is.
One time?
Yeah.
Can we do one more?
Oh, yeah.
Before we listen, is that cool?
No, it's good, yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah. What's Teresa?
Never mind.
Yeah, 8 times.
All right.
Are you cool with that, Justin?
Yeah, I'll play it all day. Why, is that not cool?
Yeah, that's totally cool.
What's the issue?
Nothing.
All right. Let's do one and then just go listen. So, all right? Whatever happens, let's just go listen. All right, here we go.
I have a few nice mistakes in there that are usable. 1, 2.
The world doesn't need another story about a musician with drug problems, you know. That's just okay, enough of that already. But things that have gotten me through bad times of my life are artists' expression of the emotions and the struggles that I'm going through. That has helped me get through. If I can write a song and there's some element in there that helps somebody who's dealing with this subject, then it's worth doing. Hello.
That was pretty.
Thank you. Just like you. It's good, right? It's good.
He knows we got a long ride back to New York, so make up for that other stuff there.
What other stuff? What other stuff? Teresa here is, she comes from West Tennessee, and she's fixing to prove it to you right here now. And
My mama said, you gotta stop bragging on your husband. It's tacky and people don't like it.
And I'm from New York City, so that's cool, but technically that means that I can't fix to do anything, right?
It's complicated. I ain't kidding.
I can get ready to, right? I can prepare to, I can intend to, but I can't fix. And can't fix, I can't reckon, and I can't go up over yonder. And,
unless I send him up over yonder. Because I do know where it is.